Hello friends, and welcome back to another video. Today I am moving on to sewing project number 3. I went downstairs and found some of this fabric that I've had down there for a while, and I had an idea to make a special birthday gift for my nephew who's turning 6. I have 2 nephews that are obsessed with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure the difference between the two, but they have this funny joke about Bigfoots, and I had a thought that I could create a little Sasquatch for him to put on his shelf in his bedroom to add to his collection. And I thought this fabric would be a perfect option, and it's been down there forever, so I thought, well, I'll give it a shot and see what happens. So I started by sketching out a little design of how I wanted the end Sasquatch to look like and came up with a general idea. And I did change it a little along the way as I went, only because I was creating this little pattern from my mind. So in my head, I knew how I wanted it to look. But once I got to almost near the end, I kind of changed things up a little bit. So you'll see that as we go along. But I started by sketching out just a really basic design, and then from there I just kind of pieced everything together. And one of my goals this year is to create more projects using my sewing machine. Now today I did not actually use my sewing machine. I did all of this by hand, only because I've had experience with fuzzy fabric in the past and my machine did not like it. So I thought I would do everything by hand, and the pieces were really small anyway, so it just made sense. And I enjoy hand sewing because I can take it wherever. I can sit in the living room with the rest of the family, and I don't have to set up at a table somewhere else, but I can just work as everybody's kind of all around me. So that's the beauty in hand sewing. So anyway, I did some hand sewing today, but if you remember from my last sewing video, one of my goals for this year was to create more projects, more sewing projects. And so with that being said, I wanted to include little handmade gifts this year for different events like birthdays and holidays and things like that. So the first handmade gift for me this year was for my nephew, and it's going to be this little Sasquatch. So anyway, as you'll see, I'm just starting to draw the pieces out on this very fuzzy fabric, or very hairy fabric, I should say, and cutting the pieces out. And I had only a very little bit of this fabric to work with, so I needed to be really careful that when I cut my pieces, I cut them properly, because I only had one rectangle of this specific fabric, so I didn't want to mess it up. So that's what I'm doing here, just tracing the shapes out. And then I cut a piece of that tan, like fake leathery stuff. I'm not really sure what the material is. And I just embroidered a little face on him. I don't think I got any video of that process, but I just very lightly traced in pencil how I wanted his little face to look, and then went over it with some stitches, and then I stitched it down here onto the front piece by hand. And then let's see what the next step is. I think I just started piecing things together. So yep, I embroidered the face on first, and then I started piecing the body together. And after that, I think I moved on to the feet and then traced the little feet pieces out. So you'll see those different steps as we go along here. Here's what his body looks like after I pieced him all together. Left a hole at the bottom, and I wanted him to be able to sit upright, so I decided to fill him with some white beans just so he could sit on the shelf. And my idea for this was not so much to be like a little stuffed animal, but more so to be a little decor item that he could sit on his shelf. So I thought the beans would enable him to sit up and be able to be propped up on his shelf. So that was actually what I did next. And then I just closed up the bottom so that the beans did not spill out. So that's what I'm doing here. This fabric was difficult to work with because of how hairy it was. My thread kept getting tangled around the pieces of hair, but ultimately he came together, and I'm glad I chose to use this fabric because it was just perfect for this project and just took a little extra time and attention to detail, but really turned out cute in the end. I'm happy with how he went. My nephew was very pleased with him. So that was special. Just those little special gifts that just really make my heart happy to gift. I worked on him throughout the weekend, so this was where we left off after day 1. I got his feet cut out and sewn together, left the bottoms open, and trying to figure out how I want to attach them at this point. I had the original sketch idea in my head, but after I pieced them together, I kind of had some different thoughts. So now I'm just going to piece the feet together. I'm going to sew around the edges first, and then I actually ended up taking them apart after I sewed them the first time because I realized that I should have embroidered the little toe pads and foot pads down first. And so I ended up creating more work for myself because I didn't think through completely. So I kind of did this step twice. But anyway, so you'll see me kind of sew around the feet, but then I end up taking them apart and then hand sewing on the little tan pieces for the feet. And so then after I did that, I ended up making him little leg pieces to kind of make the feet a little longer so they could kind of turn and prop up, or they could hang off the shelf if they wanted to do it that way. So those were my last couple steps, and then I did end up making him some little arms. I did have arms in the original sketch, but once I made the feet and put them on, they kind of ended up looking like his hands a little. So anyway, I ended up making 2 little arms, and yeah, and then that completed him, and he was all finished and ready for me to gift to my nephew. So here he is, just about all finished up. This is when I kind of moved his feet around a little bit, and I wasn't sure if maybe I should add some arms on. And so I asked my husband what he thought, and he thought the feet kind of looked like hands at this point. So I thought maybe adding in some little arms would stop any confusion. So I went ahead and used up some of the hairy scraps to make some little arms. And that was the last step. I attached the arms and he was all done. And he was off to his new home later that evening. My nephew thought he was super cute and was really excited about him. So that definitely made all the work worth it. So thank you guys for watching. And this completed project number 3 for me. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk soon.